Welcome to the Irish Farmers Journal Weekly Podcast.
Hello and welcome to this week's podcast. I'm Thomas Hubert, news correspondent with the Irish Farmers Journal. It's a strange day here in County Offaly where the second day of the ploughing has been cancelled.
That's it in a nutshell, wind speeds, and that's where the beginning and the end, completely public safety.
But before the cancellation, a lot happened on day one of the ploughing with several presidential candidates in action.
It's through cooperation that we'll be able, in fact, to get sustainability in relation to our environmental challenges, but also get sustainability in relation to farm lives.
Storm Ali caused damage to a lot of ploughing exhibitor stands, as well as farms around the country. There's been power cuts, shed roofs blown off, and countless trees have fallen. But the most concentrated damage has been in Screggan, where the National Ploughing Championships remained closed to the public all day on Wednesday. Irish Farmers Journal news correspondent Hannah Quinn-Mulligan asked Anna-Marie McHugh of the National Ploughing Association how the organisers came to this decision.
Anna-Marie, obviously disappointment today, I suppose, in that the day was cancelled. Can you just give us the reasons behind it? Obvious, I suppose, the weather.
Yeah, totally. That's in a nutshell, wind speeds. And that's where the beginning and the end. It was a very positive outlook at 7 o'clock this morning, and we scheduled the opening for 11 o'clock based on that because the wind was to abate from 10 o'clock, so it was giving an hour of a leeway. But that all changed then at the 10 o'clock assessment, and we pushed out the opening until 12 o'clock. But before 12 o'clock we were able to determine the wind wouldn't have abated. So, and
it's just insurance reasons, we're guessing. That's health and safety. Is that
no,
it?
No, insurance has nothing to do with this. Nothing to do with it whatsoever. Completely public safety.
There are some rumours going around, I suppose, worries about tomorrow. Do we have any indication if tomorrow's going ahead? I don't
know why there would be rumours of tomorrow being at risk, because this is a wind incident for today. So that's like similar to saying about having an issue with weather next week. There's no issues with tomorrow. We're assured there's no wind incidents tomorrow.
And I'm sure you've been on site. So what's it like on site at the minute? Have tents fallen down? Is there any number on how many tents have fallen down or anything like that?
No, there's no statistics in that, and it's not something we'd be making an assessment of statistically. We'd be just dealing with what's there, and we're permitting exhibitors now to enter the site and to review their situation and try and rectify it.
Friday as well, people are talking about Friday and potentially ploughing going ahead on Friday. Is that something that's on your radar?
It's something we're looking at, absolutely. We're in consultation with all the services, because at this point in time, that's what it's about. Can we have a full level of services on Friday? So we're working towards that, and if it all works out, then we'll go ahead Friday.
Disappointment, obviously, I suppose, a lot of exhibitors and costs involved. Last year on Wednesday when the flooding happened, it was suggested that around €1 million had been lost. Is there any costs around today?
Absolutely not. No, it's not the priority at the minute. What we're about at the moment is remedial works on site, public safety, and allowing exhibitors to come in and see what damage was done to their exhibits and deal with it from there.
Thank you very much. Best of luck. Thank you.
That was Anna-Marie McHugh of the NPA there. And we have news just in that the event will now open on Thursday and Friday instead. But this won't be possible for everyone. My colleague, Owen Cashman, visited one of the stands devastated by the storm.
So we're here with CTS Technologies, a security company, and their stand has been completely destroyed and ripped apart. So what's the plan from here?
Well, sure, the plan is we can't go any further. We're packing up and going away. All our equipment is destroyed. Should look, it's an act of God. Yeah. There's nothing can be done about it. But you're probably looking at about 10 grand's worth of equipment.
10 grand worth of equipment. Yeah. And does that include the loss of maybe trading?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, lots of trade. Like we took about 50 names of potential customers yesterday that were going to be potential customers. I don't even know where the book is gone. They had all them names in it, whether it's still even there, Yeah.
And how do you feel the situation was managed?
Well, we heard nothing, only that ploughing was delayed until 11, just what we were getting on we'll say, on apps on our phones and stuff like that, but nobody contacted us to say that everything was gone. And like, even as you still see, like, it's still a safety hazard here, like the tent even hasn't been taken back down again.
So will that deter you from coming in future years, or?
I don't know. I really don't know. Like we were happy with how many clients potential clients that we got on board yesterday, but as I said, like, that's gone now. We've We have no store. Like,
The hassle just isn't worth it.
Yeah, well, there's no, like, they're not rebuilding this. Like, it's gone now. So, like, all our equipment is it's set up indoors. Like, so, it got rain and that as well overnight. So, I don't know. Like, we don't know what time now. We do have a recorder that was recording, so we're hoping that we might be able to retrieve footage of that and we can see the whole instance as they unfolded. Like, we had cameras set up in.
And are you hoping for reimbursement from the National Ploughing Association?
Well, we have to get reimbursement, whether it's insurance or what it's going to be. Like, no one has spoke to us, so we don't even know as regards our fee that we paid to get in here, whether that will be refunded. We don't know. We haven't heard from anyone.
Yeah.
Like, we've been here with the last 2-3 hours, no one has come near us. So.
But best case scenario, you'll be hoping to get refunded and I suppose insured for the equipment plus the day for tomorrow and today back.
Yeah, well, you'll be hoping for that, Jack. You will be hoping for that.
What about the ordinary punter who was hoping to visit the ploughing on Wednesday? Hannah spoke with farmers who found the gates closed.
My name is Alan O'Sullivan, it's my brother Justin, and we're from Cork.
And we're at gate 22, I think it is, at the National Ploughing Championship here, and we were waiting to go in, and the Garda has just told us that the event's been cancelled. So what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, okay, it's extremely windy and maybe they don't have the insurance to cover wind, that's fine. But for me, the forecast winds were worse than they are actually now, and they should have cancelled it yesterday before people travelled up from Cork. I don't mind the cancel factor, that's fine, we'll go away and find something else to do. But they could easily have cancelled this last night, but the draw of the money was too much for them and decided, no, we'll wait. They should have cancelled last night, let everybody know. Like, say, for me, I have somebody working at home for me at the moment, which is being paid for, but they just want money, and that's fine. But anyway, it is what it is.
I mean, say a lot of people are annoyed now. Like, would it kind of, you have kids here as well.
Yeah.
I mean,
they've taken day off school and stuff like that for this, which they're delighted with no matter where we are,
But like, would it make you kind of think again about coming next year or anything like that?
No, it wouldn't put me off coming again because it is a great festival and it's great for farmers, and it's great for the kids to get in. It's good education for them to be around the machinery and the cattle and everything like that. But I think that they should have cancelled this last night and extended into Friday, or even tomorrow is looking like a complete washout. They should do Friday, Saturday if it was possible or something, because it's going to be completely miserable for people here tomorrow.
On Tuesday, the weather was still clement, and I followed President Michael D. Higgins, who came to open this year's ploughing. I caught up with him as he was congratulating Eamon Tracy and John Whelan, the gold and silver medalists at this month's World Ploughing Championships.
Well, I think they brought great pride and everyone was so proud of their achievements. And it's something wonderful, and it's a skill and a genius that's transmitted so much as well within families, and I very much respect that. I'm so pleased for them.
You had some words when you got in about the weather. How does this victory maybe can help, or how do you see farmers coming together at this time, which has been hard weather-wise?
Yeah, I think that the important thing is to learn from the weather. I was listening to Anna May saying how that a drop of rain wouldn't do any harm to the soil in relation to the ploughmen who are competing. And after all, you have 340 competitions. But I think the thing in relation to weather we have to realise is that farmers know the environment well. And it's through cooperation that we'll be able, in fact, to get sustainability in relation to our environmental challenges, but also get sustainability in relation to farm lives. I think one of the things that we're going to have to do is to go for much more forward planning in relation to not being thrown off course by sudden weather events. We can know now that there are challenges coming, and you have to plan for that. So I think you're going to see a huge emphasis on long-term planning. But all of that planning has to be done in partnership between all of those who are involved in the different food production, food distribution, governments, and in particular in relation to the European Union. One thing that is important as I'm here, and the rest of it is to say, it's a way of life that has to be defended and supported, but not just defended. It is to be allowed to adjust to new conditions and new challenges, and I have every confidence in the farmer community.
What would your own role be in this with the election coming up?
Well, I leave aside the election, but I would say that over the last few years, for example, over the last year or two, I know when I had the last paper, I remember giving a paper in Florence on the future of the European Union, and 5 presidents, I think the President of Greece, Italy, Ireland, Portugal, we all came together, and we were interested in the way of life of the future of the European Union, not a case of in all its complexity. You know, you have farmers in France and Germany as well, and you have different sectors of farming with different sets of problems, and you really have to have your interventions in the future of farming in a flexible way. For example, in relation to, you asked me earlier about the weather impacted differently in relation to different sectors of farming and in different regions in Ireland, which depending on where you draw the line. For example, the recent drought affected those beyond in the east and more than it did those in the west, and so on. So, but I all of these are challenges that they good partnership, good dialogue is well capable of solving.
With the presidential election coming up in just over a month's time, there were more presidential candidates at the ploughing. Hannah caught up with them, starting with Gavin Duffy.
You obviously have a farming background, but were you surprised by our Red Sea poll that came out today that showed that farmers have kind of a lack of faith in the government's handling of the situation at the minute in terms of Brexit and other decisions that they're making?
Well, I would read the poll to say that farmers are very, very concerned that we're now, beginning to accept that it is possible that the United Kingdom might crash out of the EU. What we cannot overlook is that the United Kingdom, Britain, is still our biggest export market, particularly for the agri sector. So it is very, very worrying times, and it is next March. This is going to happen, and not only as somebody with a farming background and understands farming, but as somebody who lives, up on the border or was reared close to the border, I'm very concerned about how this is going to resolve itself. And at this stage, nobody's seeing a resolution. So I think that's what farmers are saying when they're expressing concern. Is farming getting enough of a priority?
Gavin, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sean Gallagher, presidential hopeful, I suppose. We're at the ploughing today. Is it your first ploughing? Are you excited for the event?
No, I've been here many times. I think it's a fantastic event. I think it's the heartbeat of Ireland and of particularly rural Ireland. Not just the ploughing, but all the other products and services that all tie into farming and agriculture and food. And I think this is, when we look at the future of Ireland, this is one of our key strengths. And I have such confidence in the people of Ireland and the people of rural Ireland. I think this is who we are.
It's been obviously a tough year for farmers. I mean, with your background as well, you can't help but touch upon that. I mean, what are you hearing on the ground from farmers? Are you concerned?
So, a few years ago, I would have set up the IFA, the helpline for farmers around Ireland. And I thought things were bad then, but it hasn't, according to some of the experts here today, it's not that much better, and especially after a very hot, difficult summer. And also I'm hearing things which wasn't relevant a few years ago about the retail business, how the prices that farmers are getting now for their products is way lower than most countries and way lower than most other manufacturers who produce products. So I'm only hearing that for the first time, and I'm really embarrassed I didn't hear about that before. So I've asked to meet some of the experts just to hear and to listen and to understand. And I don't know if I can do anything, but I'd be so happy to do something about it, even draw attention to it.
And in the immediate future now, is there any advice for farmers who are suffering maybe with mental health or financial pressure as well? What would you advise for them to do?
I'd advise the people around the farmer to be alert.
Senator Joan Freeman there, ending this report by Hannah Quinn Mulligan.
You're listening to the Irish Farmers Journal podcast.
In this week's Irish Farmers Journal, we revealed the results of a survey of 1,000 farmers showing their dissatisfaction with government action on a range of issues, including fodder shortages. Hannah met IFA President Joe Healy on a farm visit earlier this week.
Joe Healy, President of the IFA, we're here on a farm in Limerick discussing the fodder situation. But just to give an overview, what has it been like? What are you hearing from farmers around the country?
It's actually very poor around here now. You know, we were at the Capamore show a few weeks ago and people were highlighting the fact that there was going to be a deficit. I think it has even probably got worse since that, because we just heard farmers there saying that they've forgotten about a second cut and they're just grazing it at this stage. And top quality farmers, there's a number of them around the yard there that we've just spoken to, and they're looking at probably 3 months fodder at the moment, and if they run to a 4, 5, 6 month winter, they're going to be in incredible difficulty. We also talked about the Teagasc survey last week that showed 11% of a deficit, and you know, I'm not arguing with those figures, but within that there's a huge variation. Obviously there are farmers here today that are 50% short. You know, one of them mentioned another guy that's not here today that he's 75% short at this stage. Those are farmers with maybe 100. The average in the group that we're talking to today is 108 dairy cows. You know, not massive farms by any manner of means, but still a sizable number if you're short of fodder. So it's very serious. A lot of them doesn't know what to do. A lot of them, and you heard it yourself there, with bills to pay to contractors, to merchants, and access to finance. It was the first point that was made to me as soon as I came in by the man on the crutches. He said, we need to be able to get money to pay our bills, because everything that they've made all year from milk is gone on meal so far, and kind of trying to keep enough in reserve to buy silage that they'll need if they can get it. You know, and there are a lot of other bills there, so that access to money, and again it leads us back to the rollout of the low cost loans. And for the life of me, I can't understand how our minister and this government hasn't grabbed that and dealt with it as a matter of priority. We're harping on about it all summer. It was announced in last year's budget. We're within a couple of weeks of this year's budget being announced again, and you know, it's not rolled out. It's disgraceful and it's farcical, and the minister should be ashamed of himself. And I'd love if he was standing in the group that me and you are standing in here today, and to hear how farmers are stuck for that money. That has to be treated as a matter of priority and get that money rolled out to the farmers as soon as possible.
Fianna Fáil's agriculture spokesperson Charlie McConaughey said nothing else when he met Irish Farmers Journal news correspondent Barry Cassidy.
Charlie, I suppose just ahead of the budget next month, what is it that Fianna Fáil are looking for farmers?
Well, I suppose the key thing that we need to recognise is the fact that farmers are under such tremendous pressure at the moment, and we're facing into a very, very difficult winter. And I think the immediate priority is to ensure that the backup support is in place for them to be able to get through the next number of months that are facing them. So to that end, I think what we're seeking and calling for is a low interest loan scheme, which is specifically targeted towards the current financial and fodder crisis, to assist farmers to deal with merchant debt, which has become quite chronic over the last number of months, and which is going to become more acute as the months go on. And that's particularly important, I think. I mean, we had a loan scheme a year and a half ago, which delivered €150 million, and we need something along the same lines again. But the key benefit of it coming from the government side, I mean, back to the government through the Strategic Banking Corporation, is that it guarantees the loans. So it may, and what that needs to see is that some farmers who may be under particular pressure, and the banks may not otherwise be willing to give some support to, that they can actually get support as well to get through the months ahead. I think the other thing we need to see, Barry, as well is a hardship fund, because there will be some people who will find it very, very difficult as the year goes on, and there needs to be a hardship fund in place for them to actually to support them as well, where additional credit might not be would simply not be an option. The other thing we're continuing to push as well and seek progress on is the support for the beef sector, which is under particular pressure, and in particular trying to get things moving in relation to the suckler cow payment, additional suckler cow payment, because for those who are in beef, and in particular suckler cows, margins have got slim to non-existent, and if we're not to see destocking in certain parts of the country, we need to see support starting to come through for those.
That was Fianna Fáil TD Charlie McConaughey with Barry Cassidy. Stay with us. After this break, we meet a winner of the Innovation Arena.
Ploughing Blowout In this week's Irish Farmers Journal, we show readers the extent of the damage caused by Storm Alley, both at the National Ploughing Championships and across the country. We reveal how criminals are using farms as supermarkets for theft, with over 1,100 thefts reported last year. And our exclusive Red C poll reveals that farmers are unimpressed with the government's performance across a number of issues, including broadband, rural transport and fodder. Don't miss our exclusive national poll of 1,000 farmers inside this week's Irish Farmers Journal, on sale today.
The winner of the Farm Safety Award at this year's Innovation Arena with Machine Eye, a company helping you avoid accidents with machinery on the farm. Irish Farmers Journal agribusiness reporter Lorcan Allen asked Brendan Digney for more details on the product he developed.
We've coined the term intelligent safety. So Machine Eye is an artificial intelligence-based safety system for tractors, telehandlers, heavy machinery and plant. And what we do, we provide dynamic safety around the machine. So in scenarios, I suppose the biggest risk or the biggest accident that occurs on Irish farms is accidental contact with machinery. That might be entanglement in a power shaft, it might be collision with a tractor getting hit. It's a massive problem, but it shouldn't be a problem, and that's where Machine Eye comes from. We replace the spotlights on the tractor with our sensor-equipped spotlights, and we electrically communicate straight to the tractor. When an operator's working around the machine, or a third party, a spectator or a child, somebody else that's on the farm is working around the machine, we monitor that entire area and we pick the people out of it. We ignore other things that are going on, such as machinery or livestock. We pick the people out. Based on what they are doing, their behaviour, we predict where they're going to. At the same time, we watch what the machine is doing. We examine the machine's behaviour and if it's exhibiting conditions that are going to lead to an accident. So is the machine sitting while power shaft running? Is it moving backwards around the yard? This sort of idea. We put that all into our artificial intelligence algorithms, and we continuously calculate the chances of these people coming into a dangerous situation, a high-risk situation. Where we see that this high-risk situation is imminent in the next second or two, we take over and we take automatic control of the machine. And we shut the machine down, or we take action. So, for instance, while power shaft, we switch the power shaft off, or moving machine, we stop the moving machine. We do all of this preemptively in that second or two before the accident to keep you safe. If you imagine an airbag on a car, we're like an airbag for a tractor.
Okay, it's a really interesting product, and farm safety is such an important aspect today. I mean, where did the idea come from, or where did you develop the technology? Where did you see it?
The first idea for the product. So I'm from a farm myself. I've grown up farming outside Newry. The first idea, we were drawn in Wales about 10 years ago, and when I was at school, had the idea back then, but since that point, the idea has lingered, it's hung about. So I'm now doing a Masters in Electrical and Electronic Engineering at Queen's University in Belfast, and as part of that we do an engineering entrepreneurship module. So there was no question where we have to come up with a product idea and prove that the product can be built, that this product was going to be built. However, from that we have sort of gone beyond the module. We've been working this in the evenings, at nights, at weekends, and we're here today with Enterprise Ireland at the Ploughing.
Staying with farm safety, my colleague Anthony Jordan met Minister of State for Business Pat Breen, who has responsibility for safety at work. He asked him what should happen to reduce the number of farm accidents, which is again very high this year, with 16 deaths so far.
It's important for farmers, I believe, to take ownership of their safety on the farm. While the Health and Safety Authority can do so much, they cannot be in every corner, every farm in Ireland at the one time. And so it's important, as I said, that farmers take ownership, know the risks, be aware of the risks.
Are the policies working, Minister?
I think the policies are there, they're out there. It's a matter of ensuring that
Are they working though?
Yeah, it's about they are working to. Of course, they're working to a certain extent, but unfortunately, farming is a solitary occupation. People are working on their own, and knowing the nature of farming and obviously the weather conditions as well, farmers are often in a hurry to do things, and sometimes they just don't take a few seconds to understand the dangers of the family farm. And so far, as I said, 20 people have lost their lives on farms this year. And that's a huge problem out there, particularly, and a huge issue for the families who have to deal with the bereavement, and where there are many maybe issues out of that as well in relation to the family farm.
And are there things that maybe, in terms of the policy now, are there outside the box things that we can do? In terms of Sweden, there was the mentor programme which reduced the amount of farm deaths dramatically. Is there something like that can be looked at in Ireland?
I think we have to look at every model, but I mean, one of the issues out there, and something that I'm very conscious of, is the danger of quads. We've seen a lot of accidents with quads in recent times. You can go into a dealer now and buy a quad without any training. And there is, I believe myself, there needs to be a training course put into place on the dangers of driving a quad without having the adequate experience. So that's why I think we are looking at that.
Now let's join our agribusiness editor, Owen Larry, who visited the Bayer stand at the ploughing. The farm inputs company has been in the news this year for its takeover of Monsanto, and it had not been seen at the ploughing in a very long time.
I'm talking to Dennis O'Donovan, who's Business Development Manager with Bayer Crop Science. Dennis, I suppose this is the first time you've been back at the ploughing in a number of years. So what's the reason for the return to the ploughing?
Yeah, it's many years since we have been at the Ploughing Championships, and we're delighted to be back here in 2018 in Tullamore. It's a fantastic venue, and we're very much part of a company in Bayer Crop Science where we have self-care companies, we've health companies, we have a pharma company, we have animal health company, and we're all very much part of that organisation. And as an overall umbrella company, we're very much part of the Ploughing Championships. And at the end of the day, we do know that there's of all the people that come to the Ploughing Championships, about 35% of the people are from the farming community, so therefore 65% of the people are from the general population. So we feel that we want to be part of the overall, to get the message that Bayer is more than just an agrochemical company.
And of course Bayer, I suppose, this year made a lot of headlines with the acquisition of Monsanto. I suppose, is that one of the reasons you're here as well?
Yes, indeed. I mean, at the end of the day, we are moving in a direction as a chemical company in the crop science business, whereby it is very difficult to get new chemicals through the registration systems going forward in the future, and that is going to continue. We're losing products, we'll continue to lose products, and the way forward our company would see is in seeds and traits, is what we acquired Monsanto for, and that'll bring a lot of exciting opportunities for the future.
Yeah, of course, Monsanto is much more than the chemical side. There is that whole seed and traits element of it, and in your view, you're close to what's happening around the world in a big organisation. Are seeds and traits becoming more important than the chemical side of it, and will they become more important in the toolbox of tillage farmers in the future?
I would say we look at it from a toolbox point of view, because they both complement each other. Seeds and traits will bring their own benefits to growing of crops around the world, and they will need agrochemicals to go along with it, and biologics, and they'll all come together to create a sustainable scenario for growing crops.
What are you seeing in new crops in new seeds or in new varieties? What direction is the seed elements and seed companies? What direction are they going down? Obviously, we see GM and we see genetic engineering. Is that something that's happening globally? It's a little bit more difficult to get those things into the European side of things. But what direction is a global organisation like Bayer heading?
Well, I would say it is very much part of where we would like to be going in the future, although it is very difficult in some parts of the world. But patience is a virtue, and we are a very determined company to invest.
I'm sure you've met a lot of tillage farmers here today. What's the mood like amongst tillage farmers?
Actually, believe it or not, it's been a very, very difficult season since last autumn. We've had an awful lot of rain during the autumn, the winter and the spring, with a very, very dry summer. And at the end of the day, believe it or not, the mood is actually quite positive. And the indications is that going forward over the next number of months, the seed orders are booming, I believe, out there with the seed companies at the moment, particularly for winter barley. And we would like to see, we would think winter barley, the winter cereal acreage overall between winter barley and winter wheat and oats would certainly increase on last year.
Michelle Miller is better known online as the Farm Babe. She's an American farming blogger who challenges common misconceptions about agriculture. She was in Ireland recently, and she sat down with Irish country living journalist Anne O'Donoghue for an interview in this week's edition.
Before I moved to the farm and became a farmer, I was the big city girl that feared her food. So for me, I used to spend way too much money on groceries. I was the girl living in Chicago or Los Angeles, paying $6 a dozen for eggs and thinking I had to buy organic and all that stuff. And then I moved to Iowa for my Prince farming. And after living and working on the farm and actually talking to actual farmers, I realized that everything I thought I knew was wrong. And I got really upset about the fact that I felt I was duped. and ripped off. And don't mess with me. Like, don't lie to me. So
was it kind of like, did the clouds clear a small bit?
Yeah.
And you were like, was it one of those moments you have a couple of them in life and you're like, that was not, things just, the earth shifts underneath you a small bit.
Exactly, yeah. And, when Doug and I first got together, I guess it's been almost 6 years now, when we first got together and I learned that he was, growing GMOs.
Yeah.
I was just like, there's no way. How could this great guy be growing something so terrible? Well, and it's 95% of farmers, we grow corn and soybeans. So, if there's a way for us to grow more crop on less land using less chemicals, fewer inputs, of course we're going to do it. If organic was better, if non-GMO was better, we'd all be doing it.
Yeah.
So the proof is in the pudding. I mean, there's decades worth of field trials and research coming from, agronomists, people with PhDs, scientists. Nobody's going to spend decades of their life to put out a product and not be able to sell it because it sucks. You know what I mean? So if it was bad, none of us would do it.
Of course.
So it's all logic. It's all common sense that I think people forget sometimes. They forget that farmers are real people.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh, these corporate America, you can't trust the government. And it's okay, I get that.
Yeah.
I understand your skepticism, but why would we grow something that we wouldn't feed to our own families?
That's it for this week. We're back at the ploughing as soon as the gates reopen, so don't forget to visit our stand next to the show headquarters at the centre of the exhibition. In the meantime, you can read more about all these stories in this week's paper and at farmersjournal.ie. From me, Thomas Hubert, our sound engineer Ferdier Mooney, and everyone at the Irish Farmers Journal, happy ploughing and talk to you next week.
The Irish Farmers Journal podcast, online at farmersjournal.ie and on iTunes every Thursday.